Okay, so if you've been following along so far, you'll see from our first video we've created a revolve of a profile, and that's created this kind of basic mug shape which we then shelled out to create the hole inside. What we're going to do now is move on to the next part of the video, which is creating the handle, which is going to be placed over here. Okay, so we're going to start a new 2D sketch, okay, and we're going to produce the sketch on either the YZ plane there, which I'm going to use, or this XY plane over here. I'm going to use this one because I want my handle to be kind of, if I've got my mug here, I'm going to be over this side, but obviously we could use the other plane to have the handle coming out here. It's purely what's easiest for you really, but this makes sense to me, so I'm going to choose that one there. Okay, now I'm working on that plane. Now I am actually in the middle of the product here. If you can see this as I zoom around, so I'm actually working here, but because I'm looking at the front of the image, I can't actually see where I'm working. So it's quite useful at this point to choose this button here, Slice Graphics. That's the F7 key on your keyboard, and there we can see now I'm working on the inside of the product. So we can see this cross-sectional view where I'm working on the inside. Now the next thing I think is very useful is to project some geometry. So what I want to see is some of this these control points used on the previous sketch, so that I know where I can work from to produce my next sketch. Now going back to my other sketch, this is what we're going to try and produce, this kind of path that we're going to sweep a profile along. And you can see that this path from the view, it's set down from the top of the mug there. Okay, this is actually 15mm to get me the start of the path there. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm going to do, is just give myself a control point as to where that path kind of starts. Okay, so I've got my my starting point here. I've got my cut edges, and I'm just going to get a construction line like this and just bring it down from the middle of that. In fact, it's not giving me the middle. I want it to be in the middle, so I'm going to make that 1.5mm first of all, coming across like this, and then coming down into the shape, as we said, 15mm. Okay, and that gives me the start of where my my path is going to be for the actual handle of the mug. Okay, so going back to my sketch as well, okay, you can see on here I've got a box going around the outside. Okay, so this box is actually slightly higher, so it's 5mm above the top part of the box, and we can see this box has a width. Let's just show you what this is. Okay, so we've got a width here of 34.5mm, and we have a height here of 50mm there. So I'm going to just draw that in as a construction line as well, because it just gives me a place where I can kind of see what the overall dimensions of the actual handle are going to be going around the outside. So we're going to draw a box 5mm up from that first point that I produced, and we're going to make it 34.5 by 50mm. Okay, so we'll just draw a line up there, making sure I'm on that 0.5mm like this, and then from that point, that new control point that I've got 5mm up, I'm going to draw this box. I'm going to make it 50mm high and 34.5mm in width. Okay, so there we go, we've got that second control point made. Now what we've got here is we've got a series of 1, 2, 3 curves, and then it joins back into the actual mug part, where it, as I say, these points will transition into the actual central part of the mug. Okay, so the first control point, you can see it comes out 15mm there, and it goes up 5mm to the top part of the mug there. So I'm going to just plot this in as well. We've got my starting point there, as we said. We'll zoom in a little bit, 5mm down. So I'm going to just draw that part to come out 15mm from the edge of the mug there. Okay, so in total from there, I suppose you could say it's 16.5 like this, making sure it's at 90 degrees as well, 16.5mm like that. And then I'm going to go up from that point, and that point there, those points where those two intersect, from the edge here all the way up to that point there, this is where my curve's going to actually go. I'm going to just make sure that I've got a point in here as well at 1.5, so I can see that's where the curve's going to be placed. Okay, and I think what I might do is start plotting in this path. Okay, so we're going to start with a solid line. So I'm turning off the construction point there, and I'm going to just produce that first line there, 1.5mm, and then I want a curved line coming down from there, curving in and joining that part of the path there. So we've got the first two parts of our path plotted in as we have on here, these two lines there. Okay, now our next part of the curve is going round here, okay, and it's coming from that construction point there to a point on the edge of the box 20mm down. So once again, just moving over a little bit, I'm holding the middle mouse wheel there to get myself around the shape. I'm just going to create another construction line down 20mm from the top like this, okay, and that's going to give me another construction point there. What I'm then going to do is use my line tool, again holding, clicking and holding, and just dragging that round until I reach that construction point. Okay, I need to make sure this is a solid line. If you find that you draw something and you've accidentally got it clicked there as construction point, you can always toggle these on and off like that, and that creates my next part of the curve. Now finally it comes around with a big looping curve there to the bottom point where it transitions into the actual shape itself. So I'm going to try and do this as well. At this point it's very important that you've got those construction points. So I'm going to go down to the bottom where the end of my product is there, and I'm just going to draw myself a small line again just till the edge of the product where they're meeting. Like this, a little bit smaller this time because obviously it's not quite 1.5 millimeters. And in between those two construction points that I've produced, I'm going to do that big looping curve again. So I'm going to click and hold and then drag round. Oh, it's gone the wrong way. Okay. If you do find this happens, it's just a case of starting from a different point of the drawing. So this time I'm going to start here, click and hold, and then drag it up to the point where it joins the mug. So there we go. We've got our profile drawing, okay, and this profile actually is going to be used as a path that we're going to sweep a profile along. Okay, so we're going to create a rounded section like this and drag it around that shape in the next part of the video.